So there's been an official announcement in regard to Cardano, and what is that? The Cardano Foundation recently reminded people that they have joined X402 as an associate member under the Linux Foundation. Why does this even matter for Cardano? I'll explain in today's video to the best of my capabilities, but I first want to explain how I'm not telling anyone to do anything, and this is just my personal perspective, and nothing I say is financial advice. Now, if we take a look at it a little bit deeper, the Linux Foundation, what they launched was the X402 Foundation. They did that to develop, I guess, standards for AI agents, APIs, and applications, and it's very centered around the aspect of payments. If we take a look at it, its 40 members do include Amazon Web Services. We take a look at Google, Visa, MasterCard, Stripe, Ripple, and Circle, and as well as many others, of course. But guess what? The Cardano Foundation recently announced that they have joined X402. So if we take a look at that right there, that's pretty monumental in the grand scheme of things, and it showcases that Cardano isn't necessarily forgotten about, because by Cardano even joining that in the first place, what it does is that it puts Cardano somewhat in the same stratosphere, in a sense, with some of those giants. It puts it in the kind of the same sense, right? Which is pretty legendary stuff. I think sometimes people don't consider this because they're saying, oh wow, take a look at ADA. It's Cardano's native token. It's not even doing that good, down around 1% in the past 24 hours. But again, we have to take a look at when it comes to the Cardano Foundation, they just keep doing their thing. And people, I think, sometimes ignore the accomplishments that they have achieved. I think that through this, Cardano could also have better connections moving forward. Again, more specifically, the Cardano Foundation, because now that it has joined X402, and that inherently could help foster better partnerships when it comes to Cardano, and also on top of that, better exposure. Because imagine, right, out of those 40 members right there that was in the X402 Foundation, or should I say that is in the X402 Foundation, not all of them necessarily is going to know what Cardano is to the full extent. But now, because Cardano did join the X402, again, the Cardano Foundation did, what that allows them to do is have, again, this networking opportunity. So I find this very impressive. And sure, the immediate impact may not showcase itself as of right now, but this could affect it years down the line. So again, when people like to tell me that when it comes to the Cardano Foundation, it's kind of cooked in all this, I disagree with that. And also another major announcement that happened when it comes to Cardano as of late is the fact that the Volvo Group, and yeah, you heard that right, I'm talking about Volvo, they said they were exploring blockchain for supply chain optimization, and someone by the name of Ivan mentioned that in an interview with the Cardano Foundation. Now, people may be wondering, okay, who is Ivan, right? Now, if we take a look at it, Ivan, even though I've never heard about him before, I even saw this post, but basically, Ivan is the head of information management, AI, and analytics at Volvo Group Trucks operations, which is based in Belgium. So we got to think about that right there. And by him mentioning this, it doesn't necessarily mean that Volvo is automatically going to use Cardano. Doesn't seem like that to be the case as of right now, but we got to imagine this could be a possibility, right? We just don't know, because again, someone like Ivan, who holds that high of a position at Volvo, we got to consider, why did he even mention this in an interview with the Cardano Foundation? It means that maybe they might be thinking about Cardano. Doesn't mean they will use it, but we got to just think about Volvo. It's so massive, right? They're very known for their trucks. And again, if let's say the Volvo Group is exploring blockchain for supply chain optimization, why not Cardano? Maybe, I don't know. Why not, right? Cardano as a layer one blockchain, I get it. People like to say, well, it's very boring and all this, but it's very versatile. We take a look at, it could be used for AI, supply chain management, for games and all this. So when it comes to Cardano, it's not a one-trick pony. So when people like to say, oh, it's so far-fetched, Volvo is never going to use this. Well, if let's say the Cardano Foundation was able to join, right, the X402, and let's say we take a look at Cardano having a partnership with the Brazilian Olympic Committee, and then furthermore, having a partnership with Petrobras, the largest company in Brazil. If it could do all of that, why would Volvo choosing it for supply chain optimization? Why is that too far-fetched? I don't think it is. I mean, we have no confirmation of that as of right now, but literally we just heard Ivan, which is, again, one of the top individuals at Volvo. He just said this in an interview with the Cardano Foundation. So we got to think about this. Cardano is doing a lot of things behind the scenes. They're still kind of cooking, it seems like. I mean, when it comes to the Volvo thing, we haven't heard any confirmation in regard to that, but at least the seed is kind of planted, right? Ivan, the fact that he said that in an interview with the Cardano Foundation, talking about how, again, Volvo is exploring blockchain for supply chain optimization, it showcases that Cardano might be one of the potential destinations. It doesn't mean it is. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a destination for sure. No. But at least they might be considering that. And then we loop that all in back to the fact that the Cardano Foundation recently joined the X402. I can't really say that 2026 has been so bad. At least that's the way to take a look at it. They're at least doing something. And I think one of the key early victories for Cardano in 2026 was the fact that they had a partnership with the Brazilian Olympic Committee. So when I take a look at Cardano, yeah, I just don't think it's cooked. That's personally my perspective. I mean, sure, when it comes to ADA, it's still at around 16 cents, but the whole market overall isn't really doing that good anyways. But when the whole market isn't really doing the best, guess what? Some projects continue on building, some don't. And the ones that continue on building, that continue to improve their fundamentals, those are typically the ones that kind of make it through market downturns. So I'm not going to complain at this. That's just my mindset. And if I take a look at it, Cardano, in terms of ADA, its native token, its all-time high is around $3. But I don't really ever need it to ever go back there. The reason why is because if we take a look at ADA back in, near the end of 2024, it was at around $1.20. So if we take a look at that right there, we're clearly over 6 times lower than that. And also, not to mention, if we take a look at around 16.5 cents, guess what? These are levels that was seen back in 2017. So we're talking about levels basically around 9 years ago. That's almost a decade at this point. We saw that, again, a very long time ago, but it's here, right now in 2026. That may seem like a really counterintuitive thing, like why would a project basically mirroring its levels around 9 years ago, why is that a good thing? That's not good. Some people like to say that. Totally understandable. But what happens is that these are, again, levels that we once saw around 9 years ago, in which case I don't mind, things being low because I am dollar cost averaging once a month, even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything. Because imagine if ADA were to recover, not to $3, not to $2, let's just say to around $1. Again, like we're around 6 times lower than that. In which case, I'm already going to Sizzler, right? The restaurant. If it could go back to around $1, just because it's so low. I mean, if ADA only was hovering at around 50 cents or whatever, if it goes back to like $1, then okay, whatever. It's nothing too, I guess, impressive. But because ADA is literally at around 16 cents, if it just goes back to around $1, I'm already going to Sizzler, right? I'm already going to like Olive Garden and stuff like that in terms of the restaurant. Applebee's, going to Chili's, Red Lobster, and all this. So yeah, when I take a look at Cardano, ADA, pretty low, but then Cardano keeps on improving. So I'm not in this mindset where I want to give up. I'm not telling anyone to do anything though. But lately, I've seen some pretty cool updates when it comes to Cardano, so I felt like talking about it. But I'll be sure to make more updates moving forward when it comes to Cardano. So hopefully, y'all stay tuned for that. I want to say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a very wonderful and amazing day. It's Malik the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.